Hey there folks, welcome to the channel. I'm glad you could be here. In today's episode, we're going to be making a sausage that is a staple to the people of Malta. I'm talking about the Maltese sausage. Now, before we make this sausage, I just want to say, this is an incredible sausage. It's got a lot of very interesting influence, Spanish, French, Italian, and offers an incredibly unique eating experience if you do it right. What do I mean by that? You gotta eat it like the Maltese people. Raw. Let's make it happen.
This Maltese sausage is a 100% pork sausage. And you can use lean pork, pork shoulder, it doesn't really matter. I am going to be using pork shoulder, as you see here in front of me. And then we're going to be adding just a little back fat. We want the fat to lean ratio at about 80% lean and 20% fat. But if you want, you could play around with the ratios. This is what our final product is going to look like. Everything is cut up nicely, ready for the grinder. We're going to put this into the freezer so that it can partially chill while we get the rest of our ingredients together. Now remember, this is not the traditional way of making the Maltese sausage. We're going to be adding a bacterial starter culture called Flavor of Italy. This is basically just a collection of bacteria that's going to help ferment our meat. Think about sauerkraut or kimchi. I will put the exact measurements in the description box below under the recipe link. And for those of you that are interested in making this the more traditional way, I'll be sure to put that recipe in the same link as well. All right, so let's give that a little swirl. We're going to allow that starter culture to rehydrate for 30 minutes at room temperature. This is going to wake up that bacteria so that by the time we add it to our meat, the bacteria will be thriving and they'll begin the process of fermenting the meat. As far as spices go, the first one is salt. Now, we're not going to be adding nearly as much as the traditional recipe would call for, but we are going to be adding enough to make it tasty. The next ingredient is Instacure number 1, and then we're going to be adding coriander, a lot of it. This is a coriander and black pepper forward sausage, so we have some toasted coriander that we lightly ground through a mortar and pestle, and then we have some freshly ground black pepper. We're also going to be adding some dextrose. This is basically food for the bacteria, and then we have some dried parsley. You could use fresh parsley as well. One optional ingredient is a binder. We're going to be adding potato starch, and then we're going to finish it off with a healthy amount of minced garlic, something to the tune of about 3%. Okay, and there we go. This is what our spice profile looks like. Let's take a look at our meat and see if it's properly chilled, and it looks like it is. Now, there's a lot of recipes online that talk about how to grind the Maltese sausage. Some say 4.5 millimeter, some say 6, some say 10 millimeter, and so my conclusion was that it really just depends on who's making it. So if you like a coarsely ground sausage, or if you like a finer texture sausage, grind it however you want. We are going to be grinding this on a 10 millimeter plate twice. So that was the first grind. Let's go ahead and add that meat back to the grinder. Now it is properly chilled, and we're just going to give it a second grind on that 10 millimeter plate. If the temperature of the meat rose to above 34 degrees Fahrenheit during the initial grinding stage, you might want to rechill it so you don't smear the fat or anything like that. And this is what our finished product looks like. I'm actually quite pleased. Let's get it mixed up. And we have our spices, our starter culture, and we're going to be using our KitchenAid for this small 1 kilo batch. You can mix this any way you want. You just want to make sure that the temperature of the meat is chilled during the mixing process. You don't want it to get too hot. We're going to add our starter culture, and then we're going to add our spices. And how much you mix it, once again, is a topic of much debate. Some say lightly mix it, and some say mix the heck out of it. And so I think we're just going to lightly mix it. That's enough for now. Just enough to have it come together. It is a little sticky, and I'm loving that feeling. I'm loving the particle definition as well. I think this is going to end up being a very beautiful sausage. Let's put this into a casing. We're using a 29 32 millimeter casing. That's a hog casing, and the horn that we're using is a 3/4 inch horn. This is a very small 5-pound sausage stuffer from the sausage maker, and it's perfect for these 1 kilo tiny batches. All right, let's get the casing onto the horn. And nothing complicated about this step. You just want to wet the horn and then add a little bit of water inside that casing, and it should slide on perfectly. What you want is that casing to move around freely on the horn, and that's going to help prevent any kind of casing blowouts. All right, so let's give it a go. We're going to crank this until we start seeing meat come out the stuffing horn. As soon as we do, we're going to tie the casing and then begin cranking. Now the trick here is light pressure with our index finger and thumb at the end of that stuffing horn. And all we're doing is we're allowing the meat to pull the casing off of that stuffing horn. That's what we're doing. The more pressure you apply to the stuffing horn, the tighter your casing is going to be. And then, of course, if you don't apply as much pressure, then it's going to be a little bit more loose. And so you're going to have to practice and get the feel of it. But once you do it a couple times, you'll have it down no problem. Let's go ahead and empty that batter into that casing with our sausage stuffing horn cleaner, and we're good to go. Now, there was a little bit of meat left in the hopper. What we're going to do is we're going to take that and wrap it in cling film. because we added a bacterial starter culture and because we're going to be fermenting our meat, I do want to test the pH. Now, once again, I realize this is not traditional, and we are highly modernizing this recipe, but I do feel like the end result is not only going to be incredibly safe to eat, but is also going to be extraordinarily delicious with an elevated flavor. So let's make our links, and I want to show you this one particular thing. Now, we stuffed this relatively tight. This coil of sausage is plump, and when I squeeze it with my right hand, I can feel that it's pretty tight. So in this case, I'm going to pinch it with my right hand, and with my left hand, twist the sausage, and then give it a little feel. If it needs one more twist, we'll give it. Same thing here. I'm loving the way this is tightening up, and that's just about perfect. So let me show you again. I'm going to pinch it with my right hand until my fingers touch each other, very slowly so that the casing doesn't rupture. As soon as they touch, I'm going to twist it with my left hand one time. Here we go. And then I'm going to give it a little squeeze. If I feel like it can handle one more twist, I'll go ahead and do it. And each twist you give it is going to tighten up that sausage link. And there we go. 3 twists on both of those. And we're going to go ahead and finish up the process. The only time I do it this way is when my casing is pretty tight to begin with, but you can technically link your sausages like this every time if you want to play it on the safe side. We are going to prick any air pockets that our sausages might have. And then I'm just going to give them an overall prick. And we're done. It's now time for our Maltese sausage to ferment. And this is where we allow the bacterial starter culture to eat the dextrose that we added in the recipe, and it will begin to produce lactic acid, which will lower the pH. Fermentation requires 2 things in order to be successful: proper temperature and proper humidity. The temperature that Flavor of Italy, the starter culture that we used, the temperature that it likes is anything between 75 and about 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Now that happens to be the temperature range of the room that I'm working in right now. The other thing that the starter culture likes is high humidity. Anything over 90% works. And what I'm going to do to achieve that high humidity is just cover our sausage with cling film. This is going to lock all that moisture inside that area, which is going to give us the perfect humidity for proper fermentation. All right, so for this starter culture, Flavor of Italy, you're going to ferment for 18 to 24 hours. Target temperature is 75 to 90 Fahrenheit or 23.8 to 32.2 Celsius. The target humidity is 90% or higher, and we're trying to target a pH of 5.1 to 5.2. All right, it's now the next day. About 20 hours have passed, and you can visibly see the change in the sausage. I mean, the color is more vibrant, it's more red, it's definitely a little more firm, so you have a texture change that's happened over the course of 20 hours. And what we're going to do is we're going to check the pH. When I look at this sample piece and give it a little squeeze, I can tell you that we are definitely there. It's glossy, it's a little more firm, it has this beautiful fermented smell. What I'm looking for is a pH between 5.1 and 5.2, nothing too acidic. And look at this, 5.13, absolutely perfect. So I'm going to stop there. If you like a more acidic flavor, you can actually let this ferment a little bit longer, get down to 4.9 or whatever, and that's going to have a little more acidity to it. But for what we're doing, this is perfect. We need to now let it hang in a cool place for 2 to 5 days. We're going to be doing that inside of our dry curing cabinet from the sausage maker. This cabinet is absolutely brilliant. We've been using it for a little more than 2 years now. And as you can see here, we're making fresh sausage, but we also make lots of salami in this dry curing cabinet. And allowing this to hang for a couple of days is going to reduce the moisture content, concentrate the flavor, and it's going to age that pork meat, which is going to bring its own beautiful elevated flavor to the party. So there we go. This is going to hang out in there. The temperature is roughly 55 Fahrenheit. And the humidity inside this chamber is about 80%. So let me just kind of give you a quick overview. You're going to hang this in a cool area to dry for 2 to 5 days. It could be a basement cellar or, in our case, a dry curing cabinet. Ideal temperature is around 55 Fahrenheit or 13 Celsius, and your target humidity should be around 75 to 80%. 4 days have passed, and it's time to pull our sausages, and I can tell you they look beautiful. In that short time that they've been in the chamber, I can definitely tell that the color is more magnified. The sausage is a little more firm than when it went in, and I can't wait to taste them. This is a really interesting sausage. Loving the color, and I'm loving how aromatic this is. I'm going to take this little piece here, just give it a slice, see what it looks like raw. Now remember, this is fermented, hung to dry for a couple of days, and this is what we are looking at. Now it doesn't have that traditional raw meat texture, but it is still very soft. If you just kind of give it a squeeze here, you could see for yourself. Yeah, this still has a very raw element about it.
The Maltese sausage, we're going to taste this a couple different ways. We're going to start by eating it what would be considered the most traditional way for eating the Maltese sausage, which is just raw. I don't know whether it's still eaten that way. but I do want to give it at least a shot. Now, the original recipe, like I said at the very beginning of this video, this is not the most traditional way of preparing the Maltese sausage. So what I think I'm going to do is put a couple different variations of the same recipe. If you check the description box, you'll find a recipe link. The first recipe will be this more modern version on how to make the Maltese sausage, and the second version will be the more traditional way. So in the event that you wanted to maybe experiment with both methods, and let me know which one you like the best. All right, let's give it a smell and see what it's all about. Wow, that smells incredible. This has 3 of my favorite ingredients in it, and they're very prominent, very aromatic. Garlic, pepper, and coriander. And if I had to be completely honest, that may be what's most appealing right now about this sausage, because biting into, raw, coarsely ground pork, it's just not working for me, but I'm going to do it. I want to try it. I want to see what it's all about. I will say that the texture of it right now, because it has been dried a little bit, it's matured, it has fermented, it's not as soft as if it were to just come out of a grinder. The fat right there at the end does feel a little bit firm, and so I do feel like it's not going to have the same exact texture as if I was just eating, freshly ground meat. I do want you to see one more time what we're going to be biting into right quick before we give this a cook. Okay, here we go, the Maltese sausage. Huh. Okay. Wow, that was weird. I was not expecting that to taste as good as it tasted. It did not taste like raw meat, but it did not taste like cooked meat. It tasted like something in the middle. I think if it would have had the texture of 100% raw pork, it might have made me nauseous. I have this sort of texture issue. I do find that the fat was kind of creamy a little bit, but it didn't bite into what it would seem like raw fat might taste like. And so I do think that that fermentation process, that drying process, kind of helped out with all of those. I love the flavor. The flavor is radically intense. You got that beautiful floral, nutty coriander. You got those pepper flavors. That garlic is coming through amazing. I'm going to just take one more bite because I got to admit, that was kind of weird and delicious and new. My brain's trying to figure out what's going on. Here we go. Wow. Wow, that was so strange. What an experience. I'm loving how this sausage is spiced. I cannot wait to taste the cooked version, because I can tell you right now, the flavors are so beautiful. Just the right salt level. I'm loving the intensity of all the other flavors. We're now going to take the sausage we have left, fry it up on a skillet, and see what this Maltese sausage is all about once it's been cooked. The Maltese sausage, all cooked up, looks amazing. And all we did was fry it up on a skillet. Beautiful color, very juicy. It smells amazing. Strangely enough, the raw version, the smells of the coriander and the pepper and the garlic seem to be a bit stronger, but this still smells incredible. If you do plan on making the more traditional version of the Maltese sausage, you might want to poach it first and then finish it off on a skillet to give it a little sear, crisp it up a little bit, because the traditional recipe is going to be quite salty, and poaching it should help draw a little bit of that salt out before you eat it. All right, Maltese sausage going in. I love fermented sausages. The complexity of flavor that comes through the process of fermentation is astounding. Couple that with heavy coriander, heavy pepper, heavy garlic, drying it for a few days. So you get to concentrate all of those flavors. You've got a flavor-packed sausage. It is crazy how good this sausage is. Let me just go in for one more bite. The mouthfeel is beautiful. The texture of the sausage is amazing. The casing did crisp up. This is crazy good. I am so glad that we made the Maltese sausage. I hope that you get a chance to make it. If you do get a chance to make it, I hope you try at least a little bite of the raw version, because they are both incredibly delicious in their own right. I don't know if I could eat an entire link just by itself, but tasting it, experiencing that was actually kind of neat. And I am going to save this for maybe a little snack later on down the road. But this cooked version is off the charts, and if you make it, I want to hear about it. Thanks a lot for watching this video, guys. Don't forget, you'll find a recipe to the Maltese sausage, both the traditional and the modernized version, in the description box below. Absolutely amazing. If you enjoyed this episode, got something out of it, or found it entertaining in any way, give us a thumbs up. And if you have any questions about this sausage, about fermenting meats, about the process that we did today, leave them in the comment section below. If you are new to this channel and you enjoyed today's episode, hit that subscribe button and that notification bell, because we are just getting started. We're right in the middle of a month full of daily uploads. You're not going to want to miss a single episode. In tomorrow's episode, we've got a very special guest joining us, and he's going to share with you all of his special techniques on how to make the perfect sausage. You're not going to want to miss it. Thanks a lot for being here. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. So much flavor.